Day. This is Toksa Hour. I am Maggie Ross, and I am live from Porcupine, South Dakota, along the Porcupine Creek where the porcupines roam. Well, things got a little crazy with scheduling, and so I know I said that we would have Joseph Yurchetta on today. However, he is traveling, and I was not able to schedule due to some other things going on. I wasn't able to schedule a pre-recorded. We thought we could pre-record to talk about genetics and DNA and the things that are kind of surrounding Indigenous populations. And so hopefully we'll get that next Sunday. We shouldn't be traveling and we should just be available, hopefully. It's always hard to tell, like doing pre-recorded or doing lives, which is better. YouTube, it's where what do they call it? Like rebranding, because we were Facebook, and so now we're YouTube, and so in this process, it's like getting that place back to where we're building. We're building our following, our subscriptions, and trying to get things moving. So there is things to talk about today. We have ice in the Black Hills. Fall River County is taking on building a detention center in Hot Springs. And so there's like some up in arms about it. We have from my understanding, what I was reading is that the Fall River County kind of took it on because they thought about the federal funding. There's a million or $1 billion or something like that in federal funding, and they need a new jail. And so this is the way that they're in their mind making this happen for Fall River jail is that they will address their overcrowding by making an agreement with the federal government to build an ICE detention center in the Black Hills. Why the Black Hills? So this is happening in red states. People need to know that. So South Dakota is a deep red state, and probably a good majority of people in the state of South Dakota support everything that Donald Trump is doing. And so that's important to know. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. So they're going to be having a town hall meeting, and I think that meeting is coming up soon. I was looking for the flyer, but of course, I am not on Facebook anymore, so all the information is over there, I guess. Because I was looking for it online, and I didn't find it. So there's that. I was sent a statement that was written, let's see. It says, as a resident of Oglala, Lakota County, and this is coming from a Porcupine resident. As a resident of Oglala, Lakota County and the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, I stand firmly opposed to the proposed construction of an immigration and customs enforcement detention center in nearby Fall River County. This proposal represents a threat to the values of justice, respect, and humanity that our communities hold dear, particularly given the painful history we continue to face as Lakota people. The proximity of the proposed detention center to the Pine Ridge Reservation is deeply concerning. Our community has already endured the long-lasting effects of federal policies that have marginalized, criminalized, and disempowered us for generations. The construction of an ICE facility so close to our land would be an additional wound one that brings with it the risk of further criminalizing and traumatizing our people. It would amplify the surveillance of Indigenous communities, including the Lakota, and serve as a constant reminder of the oppressive system we have fought against for centuries. The historical injustices faced by Native peoples, including forced relocation, separation, and systematic discrimination, are not abstract ideas. They continue to affect us today. The presence of an ICE detention center would contribute to this legacy of injustice. And this was written by Jennifer Ross, who is my sister and neighbor. So there's an article in the Fall River Star. What is it called? Fall River Star, yeah. It says county to consider federal funding for ICE detention center as solution to jail dilemma. This idea receives favorable reception from the commission, but opposition at the city hall meeting. So not everybody in Fall River is saying, yes, this is what we want to do. And it looks like Johnson Construction was awarded the bid to design and estimate the cost of a new jail, which was, his bid was $25,000 to draw it up. And where they would get the funding to do it, well, then they decided that they would get the funding from ICE or from the federal government. It says, a new idea to solve the ongoing jail dilemma was presented to the delight of the commissioners, by local resident Don Ackerman at the July 17th commission meeting. He suggested that the county apply to the federal government to build a facility to house illegal migrants being rounded up by ICE. Oh, isn't that being rounded up? That structure could include beds for the county's inmates, he said, with former South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem Gross, who in the past has come to the aid of Hot Springs, now Homeland Security Secretary, South Dakota Senator John Thune, now Majority Leader, and Representative Dusty Johnson, who wants to be governor. It could be an aligning of the stars to get such a facility in Fall River County, Ackerman enthused. Anyway, so that's just the front part of it. You have to buy the actual subscription and then turn to page 3. And I'm not doing that. I'm not supporting these people. So here we are. Here we are in a place where, in an era, and I keep saying that about the Trump era, and how unfortunate everything is getting. And we get put into these places where we have to think about, like, well, our decisions are lasting and our response. So what is our response? And a lot of times these guys will take the initiative or the offense, and they then put us on the defense. So being on the defense then oftentimes will, give everybody they're just crying around, or they think they own everything, which we do. Or they act like they're a special privileged people, which we are. They do all of these things, but they're just, reservation Indians or whatever, So we always have to be mindful that there is a very big group of people in the state of South Dakota that are, like, when I get ornery, I can be ornery, and I can get into through language, right? Like I can talk about them being occupiers, settlers, on occupied land, that the Black Hills belong to the Lakota people by treaty. And this is stood up to by the Supreme Court, all of these things. Yeah, I can do that. So I haven't heard, I heard that that President Starr comes out of the Oglala Sioux tribe has said that they will be making a statement in regards to this. There's no consultation. There hasn't been any consultation on this. The Black Hills belong to the Lakota people, to the Tutawa Oyate. And so if you don't know who they are the, let's see, the 7 tribes or bands of the Tutawa people, which are and the Oglala are one of them. The Sichkangu are another. The Minikoju are another. The Honupa is another. Itazicho is another. Let's see, who am I missing? Any mama? I should have counted with my hands. Anyways, I think I named them all. I can't remember. Did I name them all? Anyways, so that's who, and then we won't forget the Northern Cheyenne. And who else signed that treaty? There's some Dakota people too that signed that treaty. Anyways, so we won't forget that. So not only is this like the legalities of it, of saying there's no consultation, the Black Hills belong to the Lakota people, and but we also have like the systemic things too, the systemic injustices that occur. And this all, takes us back into the conversation of boarding schools, what happened in boarding schools. And then even now, as people's trying to continue to survive on our reservations and off the reservations, going through public school education, and how we are systemically targeted all the time in these systems. And I'll go back to say, if we look at Central High School and the things that they do, and you look at the juvenile incarceration rates, and if you looked at the race of those incarcerated, you'll find are those that have infractions against them, you will find are Native people. And so when we start to think about those and what a ICE facility is going to do to our communities. And I was saying this, like I was calling John Thune's office when these ICE people were just going around doing whatever. I was calling them and I was saying, what's going to happen when they start arresting us? Where are they going to deport us to? Oklahoma? I was being silly about that, but now we know they'll send us to El Salvador or wherever. And then they even have some like agreements up with I forget the African country. There's a country in South Africa that they Somalia maybe, Sudan, Congo. Hey, just because I'm always talking about those places too. But anyways, they are entering into agreements that the federal government is going to give them millions and billions of dollars to take all the deportees, the unwanted people of America. And so I was saying that, and they're like, oh, well, you just call us and we'll make sure that, I'm like, call you from where? Like, they don't even follow rules. Like, I don't get a call. Like who's gonna do that? Like it would take like somebody in my family to be calling and saying, "Hey, Maggie got abducted by ICE, kidnapped by ICE, and we don't know where she's at." They're not telling us. But if I get abducted out just, because I went and did something on my own, went shopping or something and got abducted and nobody saw, then what? So there's a lot of big concern in regards to what is being presented with this ICE facility. And it's like, shame on you, Fall River. Like, oh, we need a new jail because we're experiencing overcrowding. And so we're gonna do it this way because there's all this money. Shame on you, Dan Ackerman, for, proposing that, saying that. And then all like the stars are aligned. Shit on you, man. Stars are all aligned. Aligned where? On another note, I would be um, really putting pressure on our tribal leaders. So everybody is having a hardship. Trump is putting us into and I'm going to lose words. Oh my God. Oh my God. Anyways, our economy is on the down. And his tariffs, even though he says that those tariffs were supposed to be something great and we're going to build, well, now Ford is saying, so this is big companies coming out. Ford is saying it's $2 billion it's going to cost them. And that isn't even including the what it was it, 5.2 million or billion. Anyways, there's another number there that they had to scrap in regards to their electric vehicles because Trump undid all of that. Chrysler and Chevy is coming out with the same. So we could really look to no jobs. And Trump fired the labor person that put out his numbers. Trump fired her and she's been there for a while, but he fired her because he didn't like that. He doesn't like people to know that he's driving us into the hole. And all of the things that him and his people are spewing are all lies. They're not making America great again. They're not even America first. They're Israel first. We know this. We know this. Why? Because we're giving billions of dollars still to Israel to slaughter the Palestinian people. And now they're sending out these cards, flyers or whatever that they drop, and they're telling the Palestinians it's a picture of Netanyahu and Trump. It's a picture of them two side by side, and then the language is in Hebrew, and it gets translated to tell them that Trump supports the removal of the Palestinian people from Gaza, and that they have an opportunity they can take up, and they could take up the assistance from Israel and leave, or stay and be annihilated, basically is what the flyer says to them. But you can't even do that because they're annihilating you anyways, because then you're going over to their camps or where they're supposed to be giving out food. They go over there and then they just shoot you anyways. So it looks like that's what's going to happen. They're in a forced starvation. So it looks like 1.8 million, 2 million people, 1.8 million of the 2 million people will die of starvation. I think they are losing, and because there's so many of them, million population is such a small, 2 million population is such a small area. When they start to do the math about it and they say 1 in every 10 or whatever, to declare this a famine, and it's not a famine, it's a forced starvation, but they want to call it a famine. So then they start using those numbers, and then they say that there has to be 4 out of 10 or a percentage that of these people have to like succumb daily to starvation. And so when you think about that, like it doesn't, they're in stage 5. So they do have people dying every day. But the other thing that Israel has done is they have killed all the doctors. They destroyed, not all the doctors, but a good majority of the doctors, and then they've destroyed the hospitals. So how do you keep numbers? You can't. So it's suspicious, you can't trust Hamas's numbers, like that. So one day people, and this is already happening. There's dead children on the streets or wherever, and dogs and cats are eating them. That's happening already. So what will end up happening is one day, maybe some Israeli person is going to be walking through the Gaza Strip, and there'll just be 1.8 million people laying all over the place, dead. And so you think about that mentality, and everybody was getting mad at me over my stance with Palestine and always talking about it on Toksa Hour. We have issues. Yes, we do. We have this issue with ICE coming to Hot Springs. Are these guys wanting to build in Hot Springs using a new ICE detention center? Who's going to be in that detention center? And what kind of technology are they going to be using? They're going to be using all that technology that was used on the Palestinian people in Gaza and in the West Bank. Planter, whatever they are. Plantar. Planitar. How do you spell it? Say that. Trump gave them like $1 million contracts, hundreds of $1 million contracts. And they are the ones that are the technology behind what is happening in Gaza. And Stephen Miller, Trump's person, his spokesperson, has a big stake in that company. And so that surveillance is coming to our communities now. So on the reservation, we could probably sit and listen to the drones flying over, watching us. Hot Springs, that's going to happen to you too. Rapid City, that's going to happen to you too. All these communities around ICE, around that facility, because they have to find the people to put in them. You don't just build them, build them and, oh, we built it. It's not like that. You have to actually put people in them. It's a facility. That's why when COVID came and when they shut down everything, and then now there's this big push to put people back to work in their offices, it's because of the real estate. It isn't because work can be done at your home as a remote employee, because it can, and we proved it. And we were just as efficient, if not more efficient, doing our work at home. The issue is the real estate, because there's all these buildings, and so corporations are paying for these facilities, these real estate properties that they own and have offices in, and nobody's in them, and they're wasting money on the space. And so what was happening is real estate declines in value if nobody wants it or uses it. So if you have a $100 million building complex, and now it's going to only be worth 10 million, that's a huge loss in your revenue or in what you get to say as for collateral. I have this, I have, this is my property and whatnot. And so that's really a big issue. So you don't think if they don't have illegal immigrants to place in that facility, you don't think that they're going to be over here rounding up all us reservation Indians and all us non-reservation Indians? Don't kid yourself. You're not that privileged. Don't kid yourself. And all what we're doing is building a society around incarceration. And we've been fighting this for how long now? The private prison systems in the state of South Dakota, in the nation. How much it costs. Like I have relatives in prison. And you have to, in order for them to communicate, you have to buy them minutes. And then you have to buy it from a specific company, which then marks up prices. Everything is marked up. So if you want to provide a care package for them, you have to go and pick it out. And it costs a lot of money to do that. And then they'll say, well, we provide them with basic essentials, so they don't need to be doing any of that. So what do you do? What do we do? So when you think about all of what he's doing, so they put all of this money, billions of dollars to ICE. ICE is received more funding in the big beautiful bill than the military industrial complex or the Marine Corps, whatever. Anyways, there's more money given to ICE to do this. And so when we think about what do? They took money from the Department of Interior. They're defunding, right? They're defunding tribal colleges. They're defunding law and order or law enforcement on reservations. They're defunding reservations. They're defunding all of these things. Trump administration. So people really should care, but I don't know. Like we live in it. We live in it every day. Some people don't even have time to even look around to understand what's happening because they're living in such trauma every day. It's like on the reservation. Supposedly there's this list with tribal government that's going to be released. Supposedly, I haven't seen it yet, for every tribal council representative and who they gave money to. And if you go back, like this is the hypocrisy of any one of them calling anybody anything. You go back and you just since COVID, how many times did they give themselves money to assist? And even before COVID and right before election, they'll give themselves $10,000, $15,000, all for re-election campaigns. So every one of our tribal council representatives continues to do that as well, right? To keep us in this situation, to keep us drunk, to keep us on drugs, to keep us on all of these things and our communities in such disarray. The violence, gun violence, all of it. All as long as they get reelected. So they're going to put propane in your tank and then tell you, remember, I helped you. So there's supposed to be a list that we're all going to be able to see. Who did they help? Who got all the money? Like I look around in my district and I can think of some families that probably got a lot of money. Or maybe nobody got any money and they just put it in their own pockets. Right down the road from me, there used to be, there's a community. They used to call it Thunder Valley down past Sharps, but now anymore you hear people calling it Fentanyl Valley. And that all goes around one of our tribal representatives, his family, selling fentanyl. But who does anything about it? Marijuana, cocaine. Who does anybody? No. So who do they help? They help themselves. And then they wonder, like, this weekend, we should have had Oglala Nation, the powwow. I could have been at the powwow. Yesterday, I could have went to the parade. I could have watched the grand entry. I could have, but no powwow. No powwow. Oh, well, there's a powwow in Manderson. Manderson has the Crazy Horse powwow going on right now. I believe it's Manderson. But yeah, so all of those things going on and nobody pays attention. You know how in the United States they talk about APAC and like APAC controls like that? That's very similar in our government, but it's the federal government that gives them the money. The federal government directs them what to do. And there's tribal members that are involved in that because they're in these high profile nonprofit organizations. And so they want to steer the money to them. So then they put money to get people reelected to steer the money to them. Yeah, that's what happens. Crazy. Crazy. So not only is our Black Hills under threat for ice, we're also dealing with the lithium mining, uranium mining, the proposed new gold and silver mining, all of those things coming out of the Black Hills. You're gonna make that phone. So what do we do? Like they made us in this way now. Dependent. We're so dependent that being able to rise up is really, really hard. I don't know. Master manipulators, that's where we're at. Oh, I hope you have your coffee. Forgot to say that in the beginning. Hope you have your coffee and enjoying it. Hook Papa, did I not mention? All right, well, sorry. I don't know, did I? So there's the Oglala, so I think you'd go the Minikoju, the Hook Papa, the Ohinupa, the Itazicho, the Sichungu, Oglalas. Who am I missing? That's 6. I'm missing somebody again. The Sisapa or the Blackfeet. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, that's 7. So good morning, anyways. So we'll just take a little break here so I could tell you guys we need to make, I ask nicely that you like, comment, kind of the same thing that we would do on Facebook, like, comment, share, and follow. But here it's subscribe. On YouTube, I'd ask you to subscribe. So what are some of the things, like what are some of the things that we could do? What does protection look like when it's framed by cages and fences? How do we teach our youth to understand sovereignty in real terms? What would truth justice look like in Hot Springs? Can our tribal councils unite on this issue before it gets built? Where's Indian Collective? Are they getting involved? Those guys got money. I mean, they got a lot of money. They got Jeff Bezos' money. That's kind of like APAC money, right? Indian Collective. They got a lot of money. Are they involved? Will they be involved? Can they be involved? We do have Thunder Valley down here in Porcupine. They used to be involved in activism, but I don't know if they do that anymore. So I don't know if they'll be out in arms. We used to have, what was it? The Red Warrior Society, and that was my Tui Deb White Plume. I don't know if that exists anymore because she's passed on several years ago. And I think they had like the Mini-Wachoni Alliance. So people need to organize, strategize, get together, call some meetings, what's going to happen and how do we do this? And we do really need to get back to this process of like uniting. And I'm serious, like there's a lot of dividing that has happened to us in our communities that people who would normally get along are not getting along, and all of that happens for reasons. You know, you have to really pay attention of the intent when someone's talking to you about something. Is it what's the intent? Is they, you know, addressing those things? How do tribal colleges get involved? How do tribal colleges get the students? How do you get involved? How do you rise? How do you become the next generation of leaders in regards to sovereignty, in regards to our land, in regards to our language, regards to our own educational systems, in regards to our water? How do you get involved? When do you get involved? And we have the same problem. You know, they've been highlighting the 90-year-old Congress and senators. We have the same problem in the Oglala Sioux tribe. Like we have people that need to retire, that need to sit down now. They've been in it for so long, nothing has happened. But it also takes somebody to really be able to move the people to get them to vote, get them out to vote to make the changes. And it's hard because in tribal on reservations in our communities, we're all related. And so it all just depends. And sometimes all that naweeziness gets involved. People get naweezy and then they're back again, that intent. And they'll put somebody under, take from them just because they don't like them or they're naweezy. So there's that. I'm going to work on some, excuse me. I'm going to work on seeing if I can get some college students involved and see. It's really difficult. I tried this before, but you know, like the students were kind of excited about it, but their parents didn't want them to get involved. So trying to help the youth voice and elevate the youth so that they can be a part of these conversations because they're going to be the ones leading us in it. So I'm going to work on that, building a process for the youth and youth voices. See what we can do. I look forward to it. I've spent so many years in education. It's like that's the only angle I usually come from is from the youth, you know, because I was a teacher. And as a teacher, I would sit and listen to my students, you know, even kindergartners. In kindergarten, you're 5. Even in kindergarten, saying, why can't I learn my language? Why can't I be a Lakota? I just want to learn my language. And sometimes those statements get a little bit more advanced as they get older, you know, in the age groups about identity. Lakota identity is important, and we need to know that and respect it. Because our institutions all the way around us is working so hard to make us not be Lakota. So we have this whole push for this assimilation process and the justification for assimilation. And a lot of times Sitting Bull's words will get twisted into the conversation of assimilation. Let's put our minds together and see what we can build for the future children or for the children. Anyways. So it's always us giving up and never like, okay, so this is what you're proposing and maybe we'll do that one, but we don't want the rest of it. Like we don't do that. There's no negotiations on identity. And so we struggle. And in our communities, we struggle. Like, who are we? And I don't know. It's just, it can be despairing, disheartening, frustrating. Like as a community organizer myself, like I've just been in that place, I'm fighting apathy. I'm fighting apathy because I've been doing this for so long and like really getting to this place and it just seems like nobody wants, so it gets to a point where you're like, oh, well, nobody wants it. Nobody wants it. And so then it's just the children want it. And so when you're alone trying to do that lift for children, it gets a little hard, gets tiring. And so you get burnout and all of that. And I think that's kind of what I was feeling. And just the whole getting away, like stepping back and looking at things for what it is, and then figuring out, well, how can I make the best impact? Where can I shift to? Because it gets really, really hard. And organizing is not easy. And there's a lot of people in organizing that you have to be like in their group. And I'm never in anybody's group. I just advocate for children and advocate for women and advocate for peace. A lot of times on my own. Hence Toksa Hour. So some people will listen, some people will not. So with all of that going on, what do we do? What are we going to do? Well, we know on our agenda is we got to get ready for school. So we're all getting ready for school. I will say that my grandchildren, they have an opportunity where they go to school. They go to Rocky Ford School here in the Oglala Lakota County School District, and they have a dual immersion program. And so identity and language and all of that is a part of their learning. And so I really appreciate that institution for, and it's hard because I'm an active Unchi, so I'm always talking about it. Like my son went through that. And he is doing very well. He went on in Red Cloud. Red Cloud has a great program where they talk about, language, culture, identity. That's a part of who Red Cloud is, Makbialuta. And that's hard to believe because that's a Catholic school. But they've done a lot of work for the students, for them to be able to stand. Now, I don't know about any other institution because my son goes to Makbialuta and he's doing very well there. Sure, he has his struggles, but he's doing very well there. And Makbialuta has provided him with what you like. He doesn't say, oh, I'm going to go to the, he'll talk to me about how some of his friends left to go to a different school or whatever. And, but the one thing that he knows for sure is that Makbialuta provides a safe environment for him to learn. And so he's been involved in things, for his future. Like they give him the opportunity to think about a future. What do you want to be when you grow up? Helping them plan those out before you get to college, because that's so important. A lot of people will waste years trying to figure out what they want to be when they grow up, when they get to college. And so they might waste 6 years on AA degrees or change in degrees or all of that because they're not really sure. And so you want to be working them much younger to think about what do they want to be. And not everybody wants to be what the tribal government wants them to be. We have to provide opportunity in the best ways that we can. So what does that mean? I'll tell you, there's an institution over on Rosebud that provides welding. They have waiting lists for things like that. Waiting lists. They provide these opportunities. Not everybody wants to spend all these years in college, and so they're finding ways there. And when you do that, that's how you start to maybe build your economy, build your community. So you have to, then your tribal councils have to provide ways for people to build, to create. So you need a business code, or you need, what do you need? We need to be do we need to be operating? Do we have to have a business license? The state of South Dakota says you do. State of South Dakota even makes you get a state licensing agreement. We're supposed to be sovereign, but for some reason, while the Oglalas do that, I shouldn't say anything about Rosebud, because Rosebud may not require that, because maybe Rosebud didn't sell their people down the river because their tribal council is greedy. I don't know. So we're getting ready for back to school. It's August 3rd. And so people have like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and it's on like Donkey Kong. Our kids are going back to school. I know my little Nevaeh, she's been waiting since school got out. She's been waiting. And I know my oldest granddaughter, she's Anastasia, she's waiting too. She's ready to go back. And so I'm excited about that for them. My son's ready to go back. So I'm excited for them to be excited. Because I don't know if I was excited. I don't know if I was ever excited to go back to school. But of course, growing up, when I was growing up, we didn't have like cable, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have internet, we didn't have those things. So you're always doing something outside. And so you're busy from the time you get up to the time the sun goes down in the summer. So it's fun. You do all kinds of things, be all over the place, do things. I remember whenever I used to get up early and I'd put my running shoes on. Didn't even have running shoes back then, but I put my shoes on because they didn't make running shoes back then. They just made sneakers, is what they called them, and high tops. So I put my sneakers on and I would run up Evergreen Hill, and then I would run all the way that line because there's a trail. I'd run it all the way down to Porcupine, turn around and come back. I'd do that almost every day when I was young. And then it's crazy because I never ever thought about mountain lions, not even coyotes. Gee, just snakes. That was the only thing I was afraid of. Snakes, rattlesnakes. Yeah, that's crazy. Like I never even thought of coyotes, that they could just kill you, or mountain lions. We didn't have bears, but a badger, something could have came upon me and did me in, but I never ever thought about that. Anyways. Oh, shoot. So getting ready for back to school. They do sell clear backpacks now, so that's kind of a favor for schools, so that they can see what's in your bag versus when you walk in and have to take everything out. So your children are not taking weapons to school, or drugs, or paraphernalia. So I saw some at Walmart, clear bags. Let's see what else. School supplies. If you have any extra resources, usually like at Walmart or somewhere, they have bins where you can buy some notebooks and buy some pencils, pens, whatever, and you can place them in there. And they will donate those to the school systems in their area. And or if you don't have like if you want to be specific, you could take your stuff to the school that you're serving. I would also, I don't want to flood nursing stations, but sometimes reaching out to your nurses in your school building to see if they need any clothing. Because sometimes little guys have accidents at school and they may have not brought a change, or they may have used up their change of clothes or whatever. And so they may need some help with some extra clothes. And they may need help with some Pampers and things like that if they have preschool pull-ups or whatever, things like that. So you may want to reach out to your school nurse and find out. Also, we always, they usually always have struggles, and I don't know if you can do it that way or not, but you could reach out about head lice. Maybe you could donate a box of bug shampoo or whatever, something like that to help the school, because Trump took all our money, people. He took all our money and sent it to Israel to unalive children and women and men, to massacre them. And he took it to give it to ICE so that they can incarcerate what they're terming illegal immigrants, but is turning out to be many American citizens who are people of color. I just was watching a clip from a lady in Warm Springs. Her sister, who is a full blood, was picked up by ICE, and she's arguing with them, cussing them up and everything. And they're getting tough right back at her. But they took her sister. There's tribal people in the Southwest that are getting incarcerated by ICE, and then so the idiocracy of Trump or Thune's office to say, well, contact us. Well, why aren't you making sure we're not being targeted? Why do we have to wait and get picked up for you, then notify you? Why don't you just speak up? So these are big things. Dusty Johnson is running for governor. We should be making noise. That guy has been doing us dirty, so we need to be making noise about it, building alliances. Like, not everybody wants this. We need to fight for our land. So our land, our voice, our responsibility, that belongs to us. This is our land. So we need to use our voice, and we need to take our responsibility and fight for it. Go to the town halls. Go to Fall River. Go speak up on this issue of the ICE detention center. All of these things belong to us. It's our responsibility. As long as we pass it off, as long as we do not talk to our neighbors about it, as long as we just stay in our little silos, then nothing will be done, and they will run over all of us, and we'll all be sitting in the ICE detention center. We got to wake up. We need to wake up. We need to. So I wanted to share. I saw this, and so I want to share it. Oh, am I going to be able to? But I need to make sure. Oops. I want to end our show with this. Oops. Turn up our volume so you can hear it. And this is at the Winnebago powwow. And so I'm going to hope that you can see it okay. But I just love this guy, this little guy here dancing. And I hope it'll kind of inspire you to get moving this week. And listening and watching that all last night, over and over and over again, because it's just the sweetest thing, cutest thing. Okay, so with that, you guys have a great rest of your day and great rest of your week. Toksa Hour is on YouTube, so don't forget to like, share, and to subscribe. I also am on Substack, so you can find me on Substack under Prairie Rose. And I am on TikTok, and you can find me as Maggie's Garden on TikTok. So I'm also on Blue Sky, but I'm not really active there. I haven't really learned it yet. And so I'm there. And I think I'm Maggie's Garden there too. And I'm still in Red Note. I'm still in Red Note, and I am Maggie's Garden in Red Note. And I think that's all the places you can find me right now. So you guys have a great week, and I will see you next week. We'll have Joseph Yurichetta with us, and we're going to talk about DNA, and we're going to talk about what people are doing with our DNA. So